Let's go ahead and close up on that. Let me open up kind of this little simple file that I want to show you. And just going to talk about a couple of other systems that you may want to put in there. Okay, out there, hanging around on coursework, there's that same building that we've been working with, that kind of real simple little building that has just a little bit of ductwork and stuff like that. The last time where we left off, I went through and I was going through and trying to do a little bit of piping. And in terms of the piping, I was trying to create some different systems that we can use to tie it all together, to kind of think about the whole notion of, for example, the gray water system and what that might look like. So let's kind of just zoom on in here and kind of take a look at really what we have in mind. In the system, you have all the hot and cold water piping doing what you sort of expect. You know, for this system, about the only change from a kind of a standard system we put in place is we've gone through and actually just rerouted the pipes that are draining out of the lavatories towards a separate line, a different sort of system that we're calling a gray water system. Let me kind of make that thin line so you can sort of see it a little better. Okay, and I've actually colored them purple, just to kind of make it a little bit easier for me to spot where they are. Let's really talk about how a system like this works. So the idea is, in the systems, as you go through and put different pieces together, okay, you can, let me go ahead and turn on the system browser. Kind of define new systems if you want to. So within this whole scheme, there's the domestic hot and cold water. Those come by default. There's a sanitary system. Again, that typically comes as one of the default ones. If you want to create a special system, for example, for the gray water or the rainwater collection or something like that, what you do is you can actually define your own systems. Okay, and then assign different fixtures to them. So I went through and defined a system called gray water collection, and I defined another one called gray water supply, and just assigned the tail ends of all the lavatories to the collection side, assign the feed for the urinal and the water closet to the supply side. Okay. And if you want to go through and do something like that, let's go ahead and close that up. Yeah, it's actually fairly straightforward. Yeah, each of these different systems, if you tab around, ultimately highlight all the different elements of the system. This is the domestic cold water system right now, and all the fixtures that are in there. If I tab around some more, I can probably actually get to, that's cold water, that's the domestic hot water, that's the gray water collection system, and all the different elements that are a piece of that system. What I'm doing is I'm reading down there to kind of see what's going on. So if you want to add another element to that, you can. Oh, under the plumbing fixtures, for example, I want to put a lavatory on the face over there. What I can do is take this system, see if I can get to the domestic or gray water collection. Okay. What I'm going to do is basically say edit the system and then just add in this to the system too on the sanitary side. Okay. So now that's understood to be a part of that system. So if I go through and try and do some routing, let me finish editing that system. And I will do a connect into out of the sanitary and bring it over there. Oh, it's complaining because of the geometry and the way I've set it all up right now that it can't connect it in there. But you basically connect into that system. Let me go ahead and see if I can put it over on the other wall. Maybe make it a little bit easier. So again, I'll say systems. It's just kind of complaining because of my geometry right now. I'll go through and put another lavatory on this wall. I'm going to get that gray water collection system, add that into the system on the sanitary side, finish editing it, and then if I connect in, okay. What's it complaining about the fittings? Oh, it's really the location right there. It's complaining that basically I can't put a T that close in terms of that routing. Connect in. it is just not going to want to work with me today. Let me try this. If I choose this and choose that, that's both on the system side. I don't want to divide the system. I want to add it in there. Why are you just vexing me today? In this case, it's up there. I would swear that that should be able to connect into it. It seemed to like to do it in that view. Okay, let's go back over here. Okay, in terms of these different systems and even the coloration of the system, let's kind of talk about how that is ultimately determined, just so you get a sense of that. You notice that my gray water system is showing up with these purple pipes, just as a matter of kind of convenience, just kind of illustrate what it looks like. That's all done actually through something called a view filter. And if you go to visibility graphics, we haven't really played with this very much, but you can set up different filters that, based on criteria, go through and like apply either different patterns or different colors that are overlaid to help code the system. So it's really easy to get them to stand out. Yeah. By default, in the mechanical views, the sanitary system shows up with green lines, the domestic hot water system shows up with red, domestic cold water shows up with blue. That kind of comes as part of the standard mechanical template. If you want to change that, so for example, I set up a new filter over here. Let's kind of edit it and take a look. I said that I'm going to have something called gray water, which will really look for any of the elements that are part of piping where the system name contains gray. And because it matches that criteria, go through and apply some sort of color override, some sort of graphic override to make them appear. So another thing we can do is gray, let me say supply. I change my criteria like that. Even in terms of this, I should probably rename that. Say OK. You'll see it's a little bit different now. What's happening now is only the supply side is showing up in the purple, because this system is actually tagged with the whole notion called gray water supply as part of that system. If I wanted to, on the return side, have another filter that is showing what that looks like, I can send a visibility graphics. I'll add a new filter to that. Let's call that gray water return. For that, I'll say, let's go ahead and grab any piping system. Anything that has to do with pipes. And I'll say that anything that has the system name that contains gray water return. Okay, that's just a criteria to go through and match. Then what we can do is, oops. That's good. Let me add it to the list of things that are being looked at. Okay, and then for the gray water return, I can give that a color. For example, oh, I want them to be kind of pink. And again, do them in a solid pattern. Now, why is that? Oh, it's collection, not return. So, my mistake. Let's go ahead and fix that. In the filters, edit that. Say OK. I'll figure out why it's not doing it in a second. Turn on my system browser. What am I doing? I've got something off in the naming. Gray water collect. Okay, well, it's the one thing I hadn't tried. Edit that. we got the pink lines in there. Okay, so you can color code your things, and this is very useful if you are thinking about presenting your diagrams later as part of like the global AEC project or something like that. It's actually very useful to go through and color code the duct systems, color code the piping systems. It becomes very easy to sort of understand what's happening at a really high level in terms of what's going on. Okay, let me give you just a couple of other things that are useful relative to piping. Oh, I actually set up a tank, and this tank is actually out there in the on coursework if you want to go ahead and use it, to be the greywater collection tank or the greywater processing system tank. And how you can actually tie something like this together is, for this tank, you'll see it actually has ins and outs. So if, for example, I wanted to route the out to the supply line over here, how you can do that is actually just choosing, for example, that line and this line. And if you actually choose two different things that you think should be connected, two different layers of pipe, you can use this thing called routing solutions, which will actually take you through some of the options. Let's kind of take a look at what it does. It's basically trying to come up with what it thinks of as different options for connecting those two different pipes. And it actually has 15 different suggestions. That may or may not look all that different. You can sort of decide really which is the one that you think. That's not actually such a bad one right there. If you like that one, go ahead and say finish. In the same sense over here, I could take this guy and this guy, say routing solutions, see what it comes up with. It doesn't look very good. Interesting. Less interesting. Maybe that one. Okay, and basically get it to do the routing for you. Okay, but piping, and I think any of you who played with it, know, piping is actually one of the hardest things about this. Trying to get pipes to behave and do the routing for it really can be difficult. So if you do have a specific route you want to follow, it's helpful to actually trail part of the path, and then just use auto routing just really to connect like the last little pieces in terms of what's going on. Okay. Final piping thing I want to show you, just so you have like a complete understanding of like one more system that is very useful to include in your building, is to talk about sprinklers. Sprinklers actually turn out to be a really easy thing to do. Because if you think about sprinklers and where they're located, they tend to be up in ceilings. They're located in the center of ceiling panels and stuff like that. The precise spacing of where they need to be placed is really located based on it's the amount of pressure behind each of the different sprinklers and what the flow is of the sprinklers. So there are formulas for figuring out really for an amount of pressure, just really with the radius that can be covered and how much overlap you want to have between them all to make sure that everything can ultimately get doused with water as needed to go ahead and suppress the fire. So independent of all the theory about how to do that, let me just kind of show you real quickly how you can actually run a sprinkler system. And to do that, what I will do is I will switch on over to the ceiling of our building and kind of look at a big old grid there and say, super, we got a big old grid on the ceiling. We are ready to go ahead and start putting sprinkler pipes or sprinklers on that and then connect them together, okay, using some piping. So sprinklers are just another element. You get to say really what the height is of that off of the floor. You could have them right up on the ceiling plane. You could have them below the ceiling plane or even up in the ceiling plane in like little cans. Okay, but that's a little bit harder to work with. So what I'm going to do is say that we're going to go through and place them. I'm just going to place them on the face of the ceiling. And as you try to go through and place these, it's all about just kind of dropping them in. So you can say, let's drop some sprinklers in here. And again, where you're going to put this is based on kind of your overall sense of really what the radius is and a little bit of analysis to understand where you think these should go.
Is there a general rule of thumb for
It's funny. I actually had to come up with one a couple of years ago. I always think of them being, let's say every like 15 feet away from each other, center to center or something like that. Yeah, because even in here, what is this? There's one over there, there's one over here, there's one over here. So that's kind of about right. A lot of it has to do with just really what the interferences are. So for this room, there's 6 sprinklers that I can see. Stuff like that. And if I'm counting 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 16 feet away, something like that. And that's probably pretty close in terms of what's going on. Once you place some sprinklers in there, routing is actually fairly easy, and here's how you have to do it. What you're going to do is you're going to say that, hey, I'm going to create a sprinkler system. It all works with the notion of creating systems. So I can choose a single sprinkler and say I'm going to create a system, or I can choose a bunch of them and say I'm going to create a system. Either way, I'm going to add a bunch into a system. So I can choose just that one and say create a system, a piping system. It's going to be the fire protection wet side. You might have a dry side if you're going to pump some air or something else through there. And then what I can do is actually edit the system and go through and add additional sprinklers into it. I want to grab that one. Okay, so what is the system? There's 6 elements in the system. These are just all going to be piped together. Okay, so having chosen some sprinklers that you want to include in the same system, we can now go through and say, hey, let's go ahead and do a little routing on this. So let me see if I can choose that system. Okay. I can say, let's do some layout, and we can generate a layout and sort of suggest different piping layouts that might work. So we'll say generate. Okay, from this layout, you'll see that it has suggested one layout right here, kind of an ISO kind of T-shaped layout. That's using one of 2 options that it's suggesting. It's kind of a H-shaped layout, but that one might work too. It really depends. We need to sort of think about where these pipes are going to run off towards your mechanical room, or where the main is going to be that's going to be supplying all the water between all these things. So we can think about, they have network solutions, they have some other solutions in here, where it's trying to basically run around the perimeters, or it considers the intersections. Okay, but it's going to suggest some different alternatives. If you find one you like, just say finish. Okay, and it'll put all the pipes in place for you. So what does it actually look like? Let's go back to the plumbing system. Kind of puts all the pipes in there, puts the little heads in there. You basically have a plumbing or a sprinkler system routed very, very quickly in terms of like understanding really how it's going to connect. And this will actually be one of those things that you'll end up coordinating relative to your ductwork system and the structural system. Fortunately, sprinkler pipes are pretty adaptable. Okay.
So you do want us to have a plumbing system?
Oh, actually, for what you need to do for your assignment, okay, in the project, if you get it down to the HVAC system, woohoo! I'm happy. Okay. If, as part of your design, you actually want to start illustrating something about, some sort of gray water or something, push to that level, go for it. Really kind of knock yourself in terms of really out, in terms of really what you want to illustrate as a sustainable future. But yeah, you're not required to do that actually in your design. If you do go that far, great. But if you don't, because really...
Can you do like lighting or something instead? Or
certainly. In fact, let me give you, just in that last 5 minutes, a little bit on lighting, just so you sort of can go that way too. Because, again, we'll talk some more about lighting on Thursday, but let me kind of show you how that system works. Because there's just so many ways you can go with all this, and you can easily spend like more than the quarter doing this. But let's talk about lighting ever so briefly. So, for example, if you are interested in the lighting side, thank you for suggesting that. Let's talk about how that system would work. Okay. I got a ceiling in this big old space. It's got some registers, it's got some sprinklers in there. I might want to put some nice lights in there to go ahead and illuminate the space and kind of take care of everything. So to do that, you'll find lighting fixtures. They're all kind of hanging around here somewhere. Lighting fixtures. You can load in lighting fixtures from the library. Go on out there, let's load some in there, and you'll find that under lighting, under the MEP section, internal will be interior lights versus exterior lights. You'll find things like, yes?
Can we model this in the architecture template?
Yes, you can put them in the architectural template, although you will need to copy in the, yes, you just need to put the MEP elements in there, but you're going to attach them to ceilings.
So I should just stick with the mechanical template?
No, this is actually one where there's not really a whole lot of routing. It's just placing them on surfaces. So just make sure you load in the right fixtures, and then you can put them on your architectural ceilings. Okay, so that's going to be fine. So some different types of lights that are useful for you to look at. There are pendant lights. Pendant lights are actually like these. So they're hanging pendant lights. Pendant lights are kind of cool because they hang, they sort of broadcast some light down, but they actually reflect a lot of light up off the ceiling and into the room. So they fill out the whole space with light very, very nicely. Okay, so pendants are ones to look out for. They like to hang on ceilings, though. You can sort of see right here, it's got to be attached to a ceiling. They're ceiling-based, so you need to have a ceiling in there to go ahead and attach them, or at least something that is going to approximate a ceiling, and we can give you some help if you have something that doesn't, about how to make that work. Other ones that are sort of in there, there's recessed lights. Recessed lights are just like can lights. They're sort of inside the ceiling, kind of located up in there. You'll find them out in the hallway if you want to look at those. What else can you find here? There's floor lamps, there's down lights, wall lights, ceiling light linear box. Let's talk about that one. The ceiling light linear box, let me even open that one and kind of bring it in, just so you get a sense of it. Okay, let's bring in a couple lights. I'll say that, okay, systems, lighting fixtures. Let's see what I got in my collection here. The linear box looks like this. You have sizes, sort of 1 foot by 4 foot, 1 lamp or 2 lamp, 2 foot by 2, 2 by 4. Again, how many lights you want in there. You got to choose basically what size you want. The voltage is really, it's not going to throw any more light. It just has to do with sort of this voltage in your systems. Here in the US, we tend to run our lights just on 120 volts. Okay. In other parts of the world, often in 220. We'll say, let's go ahead and set this light. So I'm actually sort of seeing why it doesn't want to model it right there. Hang on. I want to place it. It says it can't find the host. I got to look at sort of, in my choices over here. It's messing around with me a little bit in terms of, I just can't see the part where I actually choose the, let's see if I can do this again. It's basically, it's hiding to me just because my kind of menu bar is compressed in terms of how I actually put that in there. There it is. I'm going to place it on the face. I know I'd find it eventually. Okay, so great. I can put that and make that a light over here. I'll just line it up with the ceiling grid. Okay, I'm putting a couple of just, those are ceiling lights in there. Okay, let me switch to another kind, which is the pendant light. Okay, and what was it called? Was it called pendant? There it is. Let's put in some pendant lights. Pendant lights look a little bit different. Okay, if you now want to go through and understand the impact of these and really how much light they're being thrown from each of those, here's what you got to do. You can go through and set up a fantastic 3D view for yourself. So, if, for example, in this space, you would like to see what this is going to look like in terms of the lighting, you can say, let me put a camera in here, and we'll just take a look at that space. Okay, you can sort of see those lighting fixtures there. You kind of see them hanging from the ceiling. Okay, that part's okay. When it comes time to actually do the simulation of really what the amount of illumination that's going to come off of those, what you do is, under the View tab, you say, hey, I would like to do a little bit of rendering, but I'm going to render in the cloud, because that's where it actually does this for you. And what you can do is, when we say render in the cloud, say that as opposed to a still image, I'd actually like an illuminance diagram. Okay, that'll actually show us just really what the values are. I can choose how big it wants to be. I can choose really what time it is, if I want it to be at night, so that I'm only understanding the daylights or the electrical lights. I can do it during the daytime if I want to sort of see the electrical lights as well as the daylight. So I'll go ahead and do this sort of late at night. Okay. In terms of the sky model, that won't matter for us for this. It would matter for a daylight analysis, but since I'm doing this at night, that'll be that. You could sort of say really what the legend is. Do you want it to be in foot candles or lux? And really, what kind of scaling do you want? I actually like to turn on logarithmic scaling because it really accentuates the difference. It's really easy to kind of see the difference. What tends to happen, especially if you have any daylighting, is the daylighting is so incredibly intense you don't really see the difference that your electrical lights are making because it's so bright relative to it. But you say, great, start the rendering. It'll head off and do it.
How does this compare to EcoTech?
It's quicker, and I think it actually gives you a much more accurate result because as opposed to big grids, like 2x2 grids or something like that, it actually gives you a continuous sweep across the whole space.
Can we use this for daylighting as well?
Yes. So if you want to do daylighting, and we'll talk about that next time, under the Analyze, I'm going to show you a specific little plugin you can do, which is all about daylighting analysis. What it does is it'll go through and for all your different spaces, it'll give you the map of really what the daylighting is in the different rooms and report it out as a schedule to kind of tell you what percentage of each of the different rooms is within the boundary of, you know, is it like 2% to, you know, like full lighting, or it's between, I forget how many foot candles, like 10 to like 500 foot candles. It'll sort of basically give you analysis like that. So let me show you, and we'll continue with it next time, really what this does give you at the tail end. In terms of, if I go to the render gallery, we can open this up. Show you what it actually does include. So it is, it's going to send stuff off. It's actually going through and it's doing this rendering right now. I'll just let it kind of keep on going, but show you the ones I was playing around with last night. It creates diagrams that look like this. So I can start to see just really relative to the lighting fixtures and the architectural features, really what is the level of light in the different parts of the room. So you'll see right under my lighting fixtures right now, for the flow of those different fixtures, I have this brightness area, I have over 100 foot candles there, but there are little spots within that I don't. Okay, it's much less. So you can look at it in terms of these 3D views, in terms of understanding that. Okay, or you can also go through and look at it more like one of those maps in EcoTech. Let me kind of show you that. Let me kind of show all these analyses. Okay. It's going to open. Just want me to show it to you. That actually is ready to kind of come back in. Hang on here. There you go. So that's just basically rendered really quickly, you know, relative to those those different fixtures that I put in there that I was playing with last night. Put in what the mapping is and how bright the light is. This is like 6 feet off the floor, but we can go ahead and reduce it down to 2 feet off the floor. It's very spot here because high up, you know, the light hasn't yet had the ability to kind of like cone on out and kind of reflect. But you can go ahead and get really, I think, it's much faster and I think a better level of analysis by going through and doing it this way than what you can in EcoTech. So what that looks like is, see if it actually got done with this one yet. Still working? Oh, this is the one we just did a second ago. So 2 minutes. You can sort of see what's going on right now from the brightest to the weakest spots within the room and kind of actually see all those things in place. You get pretty good feedback in terms of really just how much the illuminance is that's hitting all the different surfaces. So for example, if you want to sort of see what the amount of luminance was on each of the desks or something like that, you get a pretty good reason, like version of it. In theory, what this is reported is supposed to be as good as radiance in terms of actually the results that it gives you back. But the big difference is, you know, you can do it in 2 minutes as opposed to 4 hours or something like that. So it's pretty good for like really quick feedback in terms of understanding that. If you want to understand a space in terms of the amount of the light that comes in during a daylit scenario, this is the one I did last night. Okay. What's happening here in the front of the room, okay, that's the light coming in from the windows in that kind of southeast corner. That's why it's so bright over here. In the back of the room, it's actually much darker because just it's, you know, scale. That's so much brighter. Yeah, the lamps are actually having a much lesser effect.
So do you need an extra plug-in to do daylighting?
To do daylighting, if as opposed to the illuminance from the electrical lights and that type of stuff, if you really want to just do the daylighting analysis, yes. And let me tell you where you get that. In fact, I'll put it up there for you. What it does, just go back to the model so you can sort of see, is it'll go through, it'll put a map on the building that kind of shows that, but it'll actually do this for you too. Yeah, it'll actually start to report. Oh, I didn't say this out. Yeah, for all the different spaces that you've created, really whether you included the daylighting analysis, and it'll do for a building a report of just the overall building and really what percentage of the space is actually meeting that and whether or not you're going to meet the LEED requirements. So whether you're going to get the credit for that. In terms of loading this up, let me do this for you, just so you do have it available. And what I will do is as follows. Let me go to coursework. Let's go through and go to materials. And I meant to get this copied up. You, over there, materials, session 17. We'll say that we're going to add a file to that. And I'm going to add the little lighting analysis plugin right there. Okay, and that's fine. Okay. When you load that in, there's actually a little bit of guidance, within it to go ahead and tell you how to go through and use it. There's something specific you need to do in terms of really setting up a camera position at the right height at which you'd like to go through and do the analysis, relative to the surface when you want it to be measured. But what it does do is when it does do that analysis, it's what is it? It just sort of makes very quick work based on the whole notion of, like the solar equinox. Let me see if I can open it up and kind of show you, and then we'll let you free for the night. You can set up some camera views, okay, which are really just straight down views at a specific height. For example, this view is currently set to be like 6 feet off the floor right now. And what you can do is, using that little tool, say that I would like to run an analysis. Let's see if it'll bring it up. Okay. It'll say, great, for Stanford, California, at the fall equinox at 9 and 3 under clear sky conditions, tell me, like, what actually meets the threshold of anywhere from 10 to 500 foot candles, okay, and would meet the requirements. So you say, great, start analysis. Okay, it'll run off and do it. Okay, and what it'll come back with you for you after it's done is basically it'll fill in and populate that report. It'll also give you the color map across all this of really what parts of the rooms are meeting it and which parts of it aren't meeting it. Okay. Just if you try to do it to this building, just as a little clue in terms of what's going on, I'll tell you. This building does really well in terms of this room. But this room, which has no windows in it whatsoever, fails miserably. Okay, but go ahead and try it and sort of see what it's like.
So you just do it floor by floor?
Yes. You set up different cameras on each of the different floor levels, so you can go through and create those maps as well as the reports, and then you get your report for the overall building. So it's actually pretty cool. It's very focused about what it does. It does one very specific thing, which is how do you rate versus that daylighting criteria. But for that one specific thing, it actually takes an awful lot of the grunt work out of going through and setting it up and doing those calculations. Okay, so let us adjourn. I am sorry for keeping you late tonight. Hopefully that was useful to you in terms of thinking about what you're doing to some of your other classes too. But again, you don't have to put in line to do the daylighting analysis for our project. You don't have to go through and put in a plumbing system for our project. But if you want to, and that's a piece of your design, knock yourself out. Really go ahead. We'll try and give you some help in terms of working through that stuff and answer questions and try and maybe opportunities for exploring those systems. So we're going to answer some questions. We're going to stick around now really for the next hour and a half or something like that. We're just going to be hanging around in this room. So let me stop the recording. We'll answer some questions. And even in terms of that realigning your model, if I play with that for another 3 or 4 minutes, we'll figure out what that specific thing that I'm missing in terms of realigning the coordinates is. Ooh, clicked. It looks like we have some results. Let me just go ahead and pull that in. Okay, so it's telling me how much is below the threshold, how much is passing the threshold limits, and how much is in there. So this is basically the map of really how we're doing with the daylighting right there. And then relative to this, let's go down to our reports. There's a room schedule. which talks about how much in each of the different rooms is either above, in the middle, or below the threshold. And then there's also this floor schedule, which says for each of the different floors, in this case just level 1, it's like total number of square feet, and that will help you do the summary you need to do the analysis. Great.